So if you look at Google like a really mean, judgmental girl, it's probably the best way to look at SEO.
Millennials love experiences because of three key factors. They value the experience more than a product or merchandise. They do it for the like, and FOMO is still a real thing.
Welcome to the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. Each episode shares transformative insights and advice from members of Forbes Councils, a group of invitation-only communities for successful executives and entrepreneurs. This is Inside Forbes Councils.
Welcome to episode 21 of the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. My name is Stephen Ganoza. We've had a few episodes in the past month or so around changes in the world of marketing. And if you've missed those, I encourage you to check them out. We've had Mike Schmidt of Dovetail talk about social media influencer metrics, and Jesse Marble and Glenn Gray have discussed how PR and digital agencies have had to evolve over the years. Today we're going to get into the specifics of some marketing tactics, both digital tactics and real-world physical experiences. Darian Kovac is a digital marketing and PR specialist at Jelly Digital Marketing and PR. Darian, welcome to Inside Forbes Councils. Let's have you give us a little self-introduction.
For sure. My name is Darian Kovac. I started Jelly just about 6 years ago in my basement suite here in Fort Langley, British Columbia, which is the birthplace of BC, which is the farmost western province in the good country of Canada, so America's hat. So we have a small little boutique agency, 17 staff. We're still based here in Fort Langley. We work with a lot of incredible brands like Lazy Boy Furniture, law firms, work with various insurance companies, accounting firms, helping them get leads and become known. And so we mostly do that through content marketing and PR, which in turn all invests and helps with SEO and where people rank in Google.
Tell me, how did you come to start Jelly?
I've had various careers over the years, anywhere from being a youth worker to being in publishing to working at a law firm that was starting a couple software programs that helped with fundraising and helping donors connect with benefactors. And also I helped build apps. But in the midst of all that, from running events to helping launch different fundraising programs, I found that the marketing and the PR side of things is where I excelled the most, where I felt the most alive. And I was one of the first folks when I had an @UVic email address. And so when Facebook launched, I was one of the early Facebook users when it was just for university students at the time. And so the organization I was working at, I helped introduce them to Facebook, and was trying to help organizations figure out how Facebook could help market their organization. And so when we launched Jelly, what I wanted to do was take these typically siloed environments and these new forms of marketing, so social media marketing, public relations, and digital ads, so working with Google mostly at the time, and how did all three of those disciplines work together to help provide leads for a brand.
SEO is not new at this point, right? It's been around for a while. Does SEO still matter in 2019?
Yeah, I think SEO, I feel like, has a really bad history. I think we've all, maybe as business owners and entrepreneurs, have met people who have, come by to our offices with a cart of oils and tinctures and said, I have one of them that's SEO. And they sold us this tincture that they began to rub on our website and told us it would do all sorts of magic and, change our lives. When really we would just start to ask, what was in that oil, what was in that tincture, and they couldn't really explain it. They never really helped us understand what it was about, and they'd use lots of jargon and acronyms, and it would be really confusing. But you knew you had to do something to make sure you showed up high in Google ranking. And so we as a firm, we were heavily involved in PR and social media. So of course, social media involved YouTube videos and Google locations, so Google My Business places, and of course, digital ads. And so we realized we understood the concepts of where people rank in Google. We were running ads to make sure they showed right on the top. We were doing PR to make sure that they had really good backlinks and high authority backlinks. And so we found that people, when we could kind of empower them with what works for SEO and what doesn't work, they actually realized that, if they're going to get leads, if they're going to be known, if they're going to be seen, if they're going to be heard, SEO is crucial. And even more so for 2019, when more and more folks are spending money on AdWords and, taking money away from traditional marketing and putting it online, and they're coming up with great content. your job as a brand and your job as an organization, even more so, is to make sure that you are showing yourself as an authority on a topic, showing yourself as an authority in a geographic area so that you show up for the people when they're searching for you.
But can SEO still compete with strict social media marketing or social media influencers? Does it still win out at the end of the day?
And I think it's kind of two different types of marketing where, you could, say you are a cat sweater company, right? And you have this great influencer post this amazing photo of her with her beautiful cat wearing one of your sweaters, and she posts it on Instagram and all of her followers see it. And it's like, wow, look how great that cat sweater looks. But then, if you are getting cold and it's getting cold up here in Canada or, some state that gets cold and you Google search, sweater for my cat, right? Because that's what you're going to do. And maybe you don't follow that person on Instagram and you didn't know about that amazing famous person who was promoting this cat sweater, but you're going to Google search it. It's the main thing that people do these days to find something to buy. Google calls it micro moments. When you have that micro moment of, okay, my cat is shivering, I'm getting cold, I put on a sweater, but my cat doesn't have a sweater. I'm going to Google that. And again, using that as an analogy for all sorts of things. So whether it's a sore tummy or a really sweaty armpits or hair loss or whatever it is, if you can make sure that your brand and your content is showing top of mind when people Google search for those terms, that's the game here. And that's the key here, so that you are, feeding Google the right information, the right data.
Got it. So even though we've got these relatively newer trends in marketing around social influence, Instagram, museums, and all this, at the end of the day, when people want something, they're still just gonna Google, like, how do I do this, or where do I find this? What about changes to the algorithms and result pages? How has that evolved? How does that change, how you approach an SEO strategy?
Probably the best way to describe it. Have you ever seen the movie Mean Girls? Lindsay Lohan? No, you haven't seen it yet? Okay. So if you can imagine that movie, basically the movie's about these really mean, judgmental girls in a high school. So if you look at Google, like a really mean, judgmental girl, it's probably the best way to look at SEO. So how Mean Girls work in a high school typically is that they judge people in the hallways in two ways. So the number one way Mean Girls judge people is by what they dress, how they dress, what they wear, the makeup, what they have braces, if they've got the right hairdo, are they wearing perfume or not. So they judge websites in the same way. And Google is like a mean girl. It's going to judge your website by what's on your site, how it's coded, how you save the pictures, how it's, set up online. So they're going to judge you by what's on your website. And these days, that's about 40% of how Google judges you. So where back in the day, and people are still learning this, it used to be a lot more. And so Google isn't just trying to serve those people who are good at coding and good at setting up their website and good at structuring their website. They're making sure that it's more evenly balanced to providing really good content for people when items and thoughts and ideas are Googled. It's really important to have great content on your site and you're talking about your topic, great blogs, you're mentioning what city you're in, what state you're in, what province you're in. All that stuff is really crucial for on your site. But there's a second way that Mean Girls judge. And this is becoming more and more important for Google. Probably about 60% of how they judge people and how they judge websites is who's talking to you in the hallway. So when you walk down the hallway and the mean girl standing there at the locker and looking at you, she's looking to see who's talking to you and what are they talking to you about. So a key strategy for SEO for 2019 is, are you getting really good backlinks, linking to your site, talking about your topic? So for example, is Forbes, have they written an article about your amazing, cat sweater company that's just blowing up across the world? And there's a great link back that goes from Forbes to your site. Is there a blogger who reviews, cat sweaters around the world? And are they writing a review about your cat sweaters and linking to your site? Is Google My Business linking to you? Is YouTube linking to you? So Google wants to know that you are not only, talking to a lot of people that are legit, good quality people and cool people, but they're talking to you about your topic of choice and that you are an authority on a topic like cat sweaters.
So without giving away the store then, maybe if you could, what's one tip for getting those backlinks? Is it just like begging your friend to write it, on their blog, or is there something that's a little bit more formal or whatnot?
So I'll probably give you three strategies that you guys could do today, even those that are listening to the podcast right now. Number one, I'll give you an example. If you're a law firm or you're an accounting firm, you probably are friends with another law firm or accounting firm. Again, accounting firms talking to law firm friends and vice versa. And the idea being is, hey, I'm a law firm. Hey, my buddy who works in an accounting firm. I want to feature you on my blog. And in return, I'd love for you to feature me on your blog. All of a sudden, you have two service industry organizations that are not competing, writing about each other on each other's blogs. You're both linking back to each other. You're both hopefully saying nice things about each other, and you're both featuring the qualities of what your organization does. So that's just kind of a nice, easy way to do it. So if you think about it, writing down, maybe you're taking notes, or maybe you're in your car and you can remember this in your head, but think of maybe like 2 or 3 organizations or companies that have blogs on their site that you're friends with, that you could say, hey, I'd love to do a blog exchange with you. I'm going to write about you, and I'd love it if you write about me. And sometimes maybe they don't write about you back right away, but maybe you start by just being really generous and linking to other organizations. Another great way is providing amazing content for organizations. So a term is listicle. So think about article and list got together and had a baby. So that'd be a listicle. So maybe you, as an expert on a topic, can think of, okay, here's the top 3 things to consider when buying a cat sweater. Top 5 things to consider when hiring a lawyer. Top 7 things to consider, when choosing the best lip balm to purchase. But again, think about things and listicles because people love them, and editors and publishers love getting and receiving listicles. You can't guarantee that they'll be published, but if you look at a company like Forbes, for example, some of the top articles are listicles, and feedback and ideas from people. The Forbes Agency Council is a great example of, they get all these different experts to speak into a topic. So again, check those out. Great examples of expert positioning in the media. And then the third one would be called newsjacking. So as you are listening to the news, listening to the radio, watching TV and the news on the TV, when they come up with a topic that has to do with your industry or a connection to your industry, follow up with that reporter, follow up with that kind of newsroom producer and say, hey, I noticed that you talked about cold and how it's affecting cows. Hey, I have a thought about how the cold affects cats. And then you send them an email and kind of give your perspective on it, because they're already in the zone of thinking about cold and animals. So make that connection to cold and cats. Again, using that as an example. So, what's happening with cannabis laws in Canada. And if you're a lawyer that deals with that, maybe you want to speak into that. Maybe if you're an HR person, maybe you want to speak into how, the cannabis laws are going to affect HR. So again, always thinking about how you can build a connection and a bridge between something in the news and your organization.
I think the obvious burning question at this point is, do you have a side business selling cat sweaters?
No, I don't. Maybe I should. I have not. I just thought it because it was the most generic thing. I've never met anyone that makes cat sweaters, so I just thought it's like a nice, safe, Switzerlandy type of business, so that it doesn't skew people's thoughts about our time together here today.
I mean, it sounds like you've got the marketing strategy already put together, so backtracking, do you need an agency to do this work? And I realize that you probably sell your services, so does somebody need to hire somebody like you, or how much of this can you do on your own, and what does it take to do it on your own?
So when we talk about the 2 different types of SEO, there's the on-site SEO, which we talked about how your site is structured, how it's built, how it's coded. If you are good at that and have a penchant for coding and the technical side of things, then you can do it yourself. You can go through some incredible on-site SEO audits. Moz.com has some great tools for that. Ahrefs, which is Ahrefs, also another great tool. So these are just some great tools that you can use yourself to do your own on-site audit. And one of the pieces of the audit is going to tell you is how many backlinks you have and what the authority looks like from other sites linking to you. And again, that's all about the hustle, the hard work, the sweat that you put into it. So again, it looks like, for example, your Google Places place, when you get people to review about you, making sure that they put your city name in the review, the services that you provide in the review, because Google, being Google, owns Google Places. They're going to scan that. They're going to see what people are saying about your organization, and it's user generated. So they're going to know that that's not done by you. And that's why they're putting so much more weight on offsite SEO, because you can't drum that up yourself. And so much of offsite SEO is about, are you an authority on that topic? Will you get picked up in the news? Do people want to link about you? Do people want to review you? And the other one that you can do as well is filling YouTube with incredible content about your topic of choice. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And the number one thing people are searching for there is how to. So if you can put together like 5 to 10 how-to videos, again, you're telling YouTube and you're telling Google that you're an expert on these how-to subjects. And ideally, when people Google a topic and Google a how-to, your YouTube video pops up. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but Google is working really, really hard to not send people to your website. So if you ever Google something or a topic or a suggestion, they're even adding what's called an FAQ section now, and they're doing questions and answers. And so you don't even have to go to a website now, because they're going to pull that from your blog, pull that from content on news sites, and put the answers there. And ideally, you're the person who's there. You're the person who's taking the time to be on Reddit, be on Quora, answering people's questions, and creating incredible content on other people's sites. And of course, the argument I think always is that, hey, I wrote a great blog. Should I put it on my blog, or should I try to get someone else to publish it? I think if you can be patient, like give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and offer up your blog to people and say, hey, I'll offer this to you and I'll give you exclusive on this blog. I'm not pitching it around everywhere, but if you want to publish it, and I'll give you a week to decide. And then if you shop it around 3 or 4 places and everyone says no, then of course publish it on your blog, put it on your LinkedIn. But before you do that, if you can think of this quote, or remember this quote, it's more important what others say about you than what you say about you. Again, it's more important what others say about you than what you say about you. And so getting others to link back to you, to talk about you, always sounds much better than you putting it on your own blog.
Got it. So the coding, the website, the dev part of it, you could certainly do yourself. So I guess what value then does an agency like yours bring? Is it the connections to get those placements in the blog? Like in the space of everything you've just described, where do you fit in?
Yeah, and maybe I'll talk about agencies in general. So essentially, you want to find an agency that can do on-site SEO. So you want to find an agency that has people who know how to code, they build websites, they understand the language of the internet. So when Google crawls your website, it's Google friendly. So that's on-site. And then you also want to find an agency, and maybe they're the same one, but an agency that can write really great content. And that's content that maybe goes on your blog, again, that Google crawls and sees that you're writing about certain topics, and also writes great content for other people's sites. And so an agency has a really good Rolodex. If you remember, those are great connections, and they've got press contacts, and they've got producer contacts. And so the value is that they've been there before. This isn't their first rodeo, so they know which reporters are picking up stories, which news publications are interested in which topics. These are all great things that an agency brings. And the other thing they bring is that they can help push you to get those videos done. Sometimes when you try to DIY it, you can procrastinate, but an agency can set a schedule up for like when they're going to do videos, when they're going to get blogs posted up, when they're going to do a press outreach, when they're going to do a press campaign. And they're also going to follow up with those media to be like, hey, I want to let you know that, hey, you posted that wrong, or hey, the link back is wrong. It's not actually helping our client. And they're going to speak on your behalf. Because sometimes it's always nice to get someone else to be your champion versus you always having to be your champion. But what I love about what I do and what I love about SEO is that it's the great leveling place. We live in this amazing time in 2019, 2018, where marketing has become so democratized, and that everyone has a chance now. If you got great content, if you've got something to say, if you're willing to put in the work to get yourself known and seen and heard with incredible content, you can be known, seen, and heard. If you're willing to put in the time and energy. And again, maybe you're so busy stuffing cat sweaters in boxes and shipping and receiving and speaking at TED, talking about the value of cats and sweaters, which is hosted now in Vancouver, BC, in case you didn't know, which is quite exciting. Maybe you're busy doing that. So then you do want to outsource it to an agency. And you want to make sure that the agency is doing both on-site and off-site, and not just one or the other.
In terms of what you see in the next few years, and we could take this as SEO specifically or marketing in general, what are the trends that you see coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I think especially when you are a local search organization, so maybe you're a service industry or you're a product industry in a local area, serving a local area, SEO is more crucial than ever these days. But again, the great thing about SEO, and my grandma uses this term, feeding 2 birds with 1 grain, instead of the more violent killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The great thing with SEO is that as you create great content on YouTube, on blogs, not only does it serve as great content that people can consume and get to know you and think about your brand and consider your brand, but it also feeds your SEO and your ranking. So as you're thinking about content, as you're thinking about marketing for 2019, try to always think about the feeding two birds with one grain, and how do when the marketing that you're doing, when you're doing YouTube videos, how is that also affecting SEO? When you're doing a blogger outreach, how does that affect SEO? When you're putting out, a press release, how does that affect SEO? When you're rejigging your website and tweaking it and adjusting it, how does that affect SEO? And are you putting the energy and the investment into making sure that your site is Google friendly, or are you doing a regular audit in the same way that you would regularly check up on your car, right? Get a tune-up, get it looked at. You want to do an audit and a checkup on your own website to make sure that your on-site and your off-site is Google friendly, and you're growing, so your competition doesn't beat you to the punch.
And there's the punchline of the whole thing. Darian, how can people learn more about you and your business?
If they're interested, they can go to jellymarketing.com, which is our agency website. And then if they're interested in me for any reason or another, DarianKovacs.com.
This is Inside Forbes Councils. We'll be right back.
Are you a successful executive or entrepreneur with insights to share? Learn more about our invitation-only communities at ForbesCouncils.com. Forbes Councils members have the opportunity to collaborate with fellow business leaders to overcome challenges and create new opportunities. Members also have access to support benefits that help them save time and money, and a platform, Community Voice, on Forbes.com, through which they can amplify their voices and exchange ideas. See if you qualify at ForbesCouncils.com.
Alan Yaselevich is the VP of Marketing and Growth at MC Squared. Alan is going to discuss how many of the tactics that Darian talked about are just one piece of a comprehensive brand marketing strategy. In addition to focusing on SEO and page rank, brands need to focus on in-person interactions. Alan, thank you for taking the time to join us. Tell us a little bit about you and your company.
So my name is Alan Yaselevich. I'm the VP of Marketing and Growth at MC Squared, a brand experience agency. Our focus is to help clients drive brand and revenue growth through face-to-face experiences. That includes exhibits, trade shows, live events, immersive activations, roadshows, and pop-up stores, just to name a few. We deliver the full end-to-end from strategy, design, fabrication, and installation all under one roof. So I feel like that sets us apart. And I personally head up all the marketing, brand, and digital efforts here at MC Squared with a focus on growth and business development.
Give me a little history of your career trajectory. How did you wind up in this role? How did you find yourself here?
Yeah, thanks for asking me. I actually think my career trajectory is quite unorthodox. I actually graduated from Syracuse University in 2003 with a degree in finance. As a kid growing up in Queens, I always envisioned myself being a banker working on Wall Street. But early on in my career, shortly after I graduated, I just realized that wasn't in the cards for me. I always had a desire to be creative in whatever I did. But back in Syracuse and in all my marketing classes, the themes still focused mainly on the 4 Ps. Digital communications wasn't a thing back in 2003. But I recall back in 1995, when AOL first came to be and I dialed up to the internet using a dial-up modem, and in an instant was in a world where I was able to interact with people from all over the world. I feel like I never lost that bug, that desire to be in an area where I was able to communicate with people online. So it wasn't until 2007, 2008, when social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn became viable avenues for digital communications. Google started to become a force in search, and WordPress made it quite easy to publish content online. I'm thankful that I was able to convince my boss, and he gave me the authority to launch a blog at my job where I was able to publish content and attract leads. And that sort of was the beginning of my pivot away from finance into marketing. A couple of months later, the leads started to come in, essentially validated all of my efforts in marketing. The best part about it is I never took a class in digital communications, in digital marketing. Everything that I learned because I just took the initiative to go to YouTube, read blogs, and get tactical and strategic lessons on how to do it. And I think that's the best part about marketing. You don't need any kind of secondary graduate education in order to be good in this profession. It's all about proving yourself, running tests, and showing results. And that's what I did along my journey at every stop. Each way, I tried to learn as much as I could from my peers, from my supervisors. And then when I felt like I hit a ceiling in terms of the amount of information that I was learning and what I was producing, I just went to my next stop. And ultimately, that led me to where I currently am at MC Squared.
As you said, you have no formal training in this, right? You just kind of self-taught yourself using online YouTube videos and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, define formal training. I feel these days, in order to be successful at your job, I mean, there are variances across core competencies and industries, but there's a wealth of resources online that you can use in order to amp up your career. And that's essentially what I did early on, I think before most people realize that you can use online education to be a catalyst for your career.
So back in 2007, you kind of you were there early on when social media marketing and blogging and all this was happening. Fast forward to today, right? The landscape's changing again, right? Paint the landscape of where we've come from then to today.
Yeah, absolutely. Traditional ad spend is way down. TV, print, media, way down. Digital advertising is way up, as every single human being is now going to digital avenues to consume entertainment and information. Recently, there has been a lot of scrutiny around Facebook and social media ads, specifically pertaining to data privacy concerns and also bots being a big part of engagement within the online world, which obviously can skew metrics. So I think there are a lot of benefits when it comes to social media marketing and advertising. I think Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter both have very attractive ad technology platforms where you can niche down and get really granular to have a targeted message to your audience. And as a marketer who is a big believer in database approaches, I think it's awesome. It really is. It helps reduce costs when you're able to monitor and really drill down to the specific buyer persona who you've outlined. But you also have to be very cautious and conscious of the fact that people are now skeptical of social media ads. And I think that's going to be the case for a while until the leaders at Facebook and Twitter can figure it out. But I think what it boils down to for the brand is you can't ignore social media. But what you have to do is, instead of thinking about social media as gaming the system, you have to just tell your brand story and be authentic and use the individuals within your organization to be prominent and ubiquitous on social media. And then if you do that well, you will cut through some of the criticisms and speculations about data privacy concerns. And I think that's how you ultimately connect with people. But in this day and age, I think it'd be foolish to just discount the benefit of social media because some of the bad eggs that are happening.
Let's get into a little bit more specifics here. So, given those headwinds of people not trusting social media, worrying about the authenticity, worrying about the data privacy concerns, what can marketers like yourself do to still, and I know you kind of address this, but maybe specifically, what can marketers do to optimize brand visibility and growth despite all this?
Yeah, so with the increased scrutiny of social media marketing and digital ads, I think it's important that any marketer today takes a diversified approach to what they do in promoting the brand. Digital is going to continue to be a big force in promoting your brand. So social media, optimizing via search through consistent content creation in different mixes. So articles, video, audio are upcoming mediums. But you have to be conscious of the fact that it doesn't all have to be digital, even though the trend is going in that direction. Interestingly enough, you would think that with the increase in digital technology, that face-to-face marketing is going to be on the decline, but the opposite has happened. According to a recent McKinsey study, millennials are actually outspending baby boomers and Gen Xers when it comes to experiences. The report states that millennials love experiences because of three key factors. They value the experience more than a product or merchandise. They do it for the like. And FOMO is still a real thing. That's more evident today than it's ever been before with all of these Instagram pop-up museums that you're seeing spread out all over the world. So I think having a healthy mix of digital platforms and real life experiences that brands push can be the optimal solution of having optimal brand visibility.
It's interesting you mentioned the Instagram pop-up museums, I guess they call them. Just kind of
Yeah,
a big...
they're not museums.
No,
That's
I don't know.
the tagline that's taken off.
You know, something else that's often talked about in this space is social media influencers and people with fake accounts, and like you have to identify when you're posting as a paid sponsor ad, right? How do you see social media influencers fitting into the space today? What's the state there?
So I think social media influencers are going to continue to be a big force of any brand's strategy, whether you like it or not. It's essentially a cost-effective way to use a celebrity to endorse your product. Considering social media just makes it really easy for any individual to become a celebrity, I just don't see that going away. Yes, there have been many reports about the inflation of followers within social media, and I think Twitter does a pretty good job, but probably could do a better job of dwindling down the bots within social media. But I think the key for a brand in order to get the best bang for their buck with respect to social media influencers is once again having a diversified effort where you have a digital play with using social media influencers, but you also have an authentic, genuine play in real life. So if you are a brand and you have an exhibit at a trade show or an immersive experience or an event, invite the influencer to be there in person for a meet and greet or photo op. You can't fake that. If the person is real and they show up, then that's a genuine interaction with a celebrity or an influencer who's endorsing your product. And chances are the people who attend the event are going to snap a selfie of themselves with the influencer and then share it with their network. And I think that's a recipe for success.
It seems a common theme here is that despite all the digital mediums, you can't overlook the in-person events, right? Whether it's the weird museums or, like you're saying, to involve real people in the process.
So so to your point, I think despite the rise of digital technology and platforms and the notion that millennials are glued to their phone, the reality is the opposite. People more than ever want to connect. They want to socialize. They want to go outside and meet other people, whether it's meet strangers or go out with their friends. That will never go away. There's an inherent human need for us to engage and interact with one another. The onus falls on the brand to figure that out. I think this current wave of Instagram museums probably will mature into something more comprehensive, where brands will actually try to bridge the gap between commercialism and society changes. And I think that's when it's going to get really interesting. And one of the benefits that experiential offers that no other marketing medium can do is the ability to stimulate all five senses. And when you can do that, when you can engage all five senses, I can guarantee you that's going to leave a lasting impression for every attendee.
I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Okay.
The museums, the selfies, this Instagram culture that we have, are people looking for that experience, or are they just looking for that experience to have content to post to their own Instagram?
Okay.
How do you see that relationship?
I think what it boils down to is that humans will always need an environment to interact with one another. Instagram museums just happen to be the flavor of the month that's occurring now, but sports games have been around for decades, if not centuries. People have been going to the movies for multiple decades. I just think people always want to engage with one another. The fact that they now have a seamless way, an easy ability to promote what they're doing, I think is just a sign of the times. And in fact, it's just a huge benefit for brands, because their investment now can cascade to a greater audience, something that was never possible, before 1990.
We've kind of gone from like you keeping your ticket stubs and putting them like on the wall somewhere to now you just post what you're doing on Instagram. But
Right.
like that underlying human nature of like, hey, look what I did is still there. It's just evolving in a way.
Exactly. And I think it's a good segue to discuss what's going on in the retail industry right now, as Amazon and eBay and other e-commerce players are essentially bankrupting brick and mortar retail stores. What you're going to see is a natural transformation where brick and mortar will now not focus on transactions, but they will focus more on experiential environment where you can essentially offer transactions, or you can offer an environment where an attendee can opt in to receive information. The fact is, brick and mortar will not go away, but what occurs within the store experience will be very different.
Is there an example of somebody who's already doing this that you can give?
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier this summer, we worked with one of our clients, Unilever, the international conglomerate, and we launched a store for their Magnum ice cream bar in Soho. And that's a perfect example of taking a product that is sold in the supermarket. You can purchase Magnum ice cream bars in a store, but what they decided to do was leverage a vacant store in Soho for a 3-month window in order to promote their brand and allow people to indulge themselves by going into the store and creating their own mix of the ice cream bar that best fit their needs. They also had Instagram booths surrounding the store to allow attendees to take a snapshot of their ice cream and promote it to their network. So that's an example of one store taking a product that's been around for many years and then putting it into a different lens to allow people to actually immerse themselves within the brand.
And that sounds terribly expensive, especially the rent in Soho for 3 months. But that actually, they actually make a return on investment doing that?
Yeah, so we are not in a position to discuss Unilever's economics and ROI, but for sure, what an experiential retail store does is you are able to opt in people into the marketing communication, and then in effect nurture individuals throughout their lifetime until they decide to opt out of the communication. And I think when you can do that, ultimately what you're doing is you're taking a short-term investment, in this case 3 months, and then spreading it out over the course of the duration of the lifetime of a customer. So that's something that is beneficial of having an experience versus somebody just going to the supermarket, taking a product off the shelf and just purchasing it. So when it comes to investing, and as you mentioned, a retail space in Soho is pretty expensive, and that's true, but these are short-term real estate plays, right? So is a 3-month window to help optimize visibility around your brand. And then if it doesn't work, they don't have to do it again. You're not locked into a long-term contract. And that's another trend that we're going to see. Landlords who have an obligation to make as much money as possible would rather have a short-term lease than no lease at all.
So you've been kind of doing this from the beginning, right? You took your law firm, who is all brick and mortar, brought them online, right? Introduced them to online marketing. Now we've gotten to a place where people are craving that in-person experiential piece of it that's not online. As marketers look towards 2019 and in the years to come, what advice would you have to them in terms of thinking out their marketing strategy?
Sure, absolutely. So going into 2019, the overall marketing approach will continue to evolve. Digital is here to stay and will continue to be a force. Face-to-face experiences are increasingly becoming an important component of any CMO's budget, and that will continue to go up, in my opinion. But the new elements that I think all marketers need to be mindful of is AI, artificial intelligence. And when I say AI, I don't mean robots. essentially physical robots selling to your customers. When I mean AI, I mean, how do you automate the funnel, the marketing funnel and the sales funnel? How do you enlist chatbots to help identify opportunities with your audience? How do you leverage AI in order to communicate with your audience and help nurture them down the funnel? I think more and more that's going to be a part of doing business for brands. That doesn't necessarily mean it only is going to occur in a digital environment. You're also going to have digital interfaces within experiences that will be powered by AI, and that can be text-based and that can also be voice activation based. But I anticipate going into 2019 and towards the end of the year, there will be much more adoption when it comes to AI technologies, both within digital and experiential realms.
That's interesting. The part of the experience that remains digital is going to become more humanized in a way because of the AI.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy mix. So take an exhibit at a trade show. You have your team members, your brand ambassadors within the exhibit, and they try to engage with as many people as possible. But if there are a lot of visitors within your booth, it's difficult to do that. So what a brand needs to do is create these mini activations within a booth that allows for engagement with the audience if another human is not around. And if you can figure out how to use AI to engage with a person, what you can do essentially is collect information for an individual as long as they agree to opt in to provide the info, and then nurture that person in real time, even via their cell phones. You can do it via geo-tagged ads on social media to essentially bring people back into your environment during the trade show or at any event that occurs after the trade show. So I think what it boils down to is marketers cannot shy away from the fact that today, in order to be successful, you do need a healthy mix of digital applications and face-to-face experiences.
And I think that's a great note to end on. Alan, how can people learn more about you and your company?
Sure, absolutely. You can learn more about me by going to Twitter and following me at Alan Yeselevich. And you can also search by my name on LinkedIn. And for more information about MC Squared, you can go to mc-2.com. And on all social media platforms, you can search for @MC2 Experience.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So there you have it. Time-tested marketing strategies like SEO and backlinks still matter. The trend towards social is still strong. Yet, and perhaps it's a bit counterintuitive, in-person experiences score big and may be the differentiator for your brand. I'd like to thank Darian Kovac and Alan Yeselevich for sharing their thoughts. We'll see you on the next episode.
This has been Inside Forbes Councils. Please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a member of the Forbes Councils and would like to participate in our podcast series, please email your member concierge. If you're interested in joining a Forbes Council, learn more at forbescouncils.com.